Okay, whenever ready, silakan.
So I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Good morning and ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for having me. I'm the first speaker from the government. So ladies and gentlemen, the motion for today is this house before competitive sport without Stoicism. So ladies and gentlemen, competitive sport in here is like a professional level sport with competition based oriented with the goal to make the athlete to have a success career in the future. And the example of this is such a like NBA or Europe Liga in football and another etc. And now moving on to the word of great mental exhaustion. It could be variety. It means just like they have not in their best conditional prime that they could not like perform like a normal better person to do. They just like not in the best perhaps like their mind or perhaps they're like they are just tired, exhausted and etc. So it basically affect on their body or their physical ability to perform something to perform their best. Now, I would like to give some point out some of the actors that involved in these motions. The first one is the athlete that get pushed to their limit just because to their limits to works even though they are having like a mental exhaustion. So this kind of people, ladies and gentlemen, I would say this is more this is similarly the case with the like exploitation of the employee. Why, ladies and gentlemen? Because first they are not in their best prime, they are not in their natural state, but yet they will be like keep pushing from the limits to work even though they are not in the best prime. Like it is basically the same with when like even though you are sick, you still need to work just because your boss say told you so. Now, to another actors is like another athletes that being ignored in the team. So ladies and gentlemen, I will give you some example like in the football. There's so many athletes in consist of one team or maybe in that kind of club organization. That like work as company for this kind of athlete too, so they could train or they could like improve their career. So there's so many athletes in this kind of club or organization, but yet the organization just keep pushing this certain athlete just because they are the star or just because they perform the best this lately. They keep pushing them just because the media or the people are like looking at them right now, and yet they ignore other athletes that perhaps that could perform better too, that could become the next star if they at least if they pay attention to them. So I will give you analogies to make you better. So this is the same like cars. Imagine you have a dozen cars in your home, but and yet you just keep only using this certain car. You using this car even though they have like giving you a sign that the machine is broke or maybe they need to be having a routine checkup, but yet you didn't do so. You keep pushing it until one day it just like turn off. Didn't like cannot be used anymore. And yet what about the other cars in your home that not even a single time that have been used for you? How about this kind of car? They are become rotten. There's dust, the machine is become stiff and you cannot use it too. This is could apply in this case, ladies and gentlemen. So if you keep pushing this certain athlete just because they are the star and also ignore the other star, it will be effective to the company, effective to the club. Why? It just like there's nothing you could gain from this because you will like worsen both of the condition from the team. You ignore one person, you didn't give them training because you keep pushing the other people, because you keep pushing these certain actors. It won't be help. Why? Because you keep pushing something that's broken. You're not pushing them to their best, but you keep pushing them backwards because they are not in their like the normal state and the best state and like zero state, but they are negative. You keep just pushing them to the more negative, not to the positive side. That's why moving on to my first argument. My first argument is just like yes, it's basically just exploitation to the athletes. It's like it's against the human moral. You cannot justify just because they want to like it is the base for the club, it's the base for the interest of the organization or the interest of the company. No, it doesn't. It won't work. It's not effective, ladies and gentlemen. Just as I said before, you cannot push something that in the negative state. It's not in the zero state. They are in the negative state. You cannot push someone like that. It's just like not being effective because you keep keep pushing someone that having a mental exhaustion is you cannot expect someone that having like a state that's not in their best prime to work even under even under pressure. Like what I have said, this is like a competitive games, competitive sport. It means that the pressure is so strong, and you keep adding more pressure to them. It's just making them worse. And ladies and gentlemen, I need to remind you that this kind of organization or sport or something like this is perhaps the opposition side of the house will stating that no, it is for the best of interest for the athletes because they could perform better, they maybe like have a track more record of the win or something like that. No, ladies and gentlemen, and also this the organization or the club will also provide something to help the situation, even though maybe like we are not going to like ignore this kind of athlete. No, we still like how do you say it? It's really like we still giving them fair. We just like didn't completely push them over to the side or just ignore them or something like that. We still care for them because in this organization we still provide them like a health center to like when they are sick we'll giving them a break or something like that. And so that's why, ladies and gentlemen, this house prefer competitive sport without stoicism. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you for that speech. To open the case on up, at offers up.
The value of competitive sport industry is to win, and that's why you can opt into the idea of good reputation of club, attract more sponsor to your club itself, and get promoted as the athlete of World Cup. That's why you want to get a good debut and protection coming from your club. In order to achieve that, you as an athlete, you need to actually imply to yourself on how you get stoic interest to begin with, in order to maintain the survivability for yourself as an athlete to begin with, right? This is something that very important for you to become a long good quality athlete, because we believe the idea of become athlete, it's something that need a long process to go. It's not that something that instant to you become a World Cup athlete. In order for you to achieve that, you need to be resilient to begin with, right? This is something that not exists under the opposition coming from the government side of the house. Because in order for you, if you want to maintain a good health stability, in order for you to achieve that, first you need to achieve on how it's stability towards your reputation to begin with, right? In order to achieve that, they fail to prove to us how then, if you become a good reputation athlete, it's going to be actually improve your mental stability at the end of the day. First, they talk about under the exploitation towards the athlete itself. We believe it is something that misconception to begin with, right? Because to begin with, if you want to become athlete, the consent is already clear enough, ladies and gentlemen. You sign the contract, you train from the early age to become athlete, you pay for the good coach to get the top club itself. This is something that already being a consent to begin with itself, right? But even if the exploitation exists under their side of the house, the protection coming from the government exists towards the athlete, because the country get the good asset of the athlete itself, right? The protection coming from club to maintain the quality of athlete, and in order to maintain the reputation of the club or even the sport industry itself, right? Fans will do call out at the end of the day, right? So we don't understand why the exploitation of they bring the idea of exploitation towards the athlete itself. But even if the idea mentally ill coming from the athlete because the mental exhaustion coming from the competition itself, we believe it is something that already cater and the status quo itself coming from the club to give a good hospitality towards the athlete itself, because you to begin with because the concept of the athlete is that it is same compared to the idea of you become an idol of artist to begin with, right? That's why you will at the end of the day you will get the same access towards a good hospitality at the end of the day, right? several setup coming from outside the house, because we believe that the idea of become athlete is a competition within the new and old athlete to begin with. It is something that's very competitive to begin with. The regeneration and competition is going to be highly exist, right? That's why in order for you to achieve those things, you grinding yourself, you sacrifice anything, because we believe that sport is a big part of your life. In order for you to find money, it's something that you to get your stable job at the end of the day, right? The concept is already clear, and there's no like form of exploitation to begin with, because you already find your own protection coming from yourself. The personal interest is already clear itself, right? But secondly, the club and sport industry is something that very lining with the interest of the athlete itself to find the best athlete with the good performance itself, right? They also want to give protection towards the athlete in order to create better reputation towards the club and the fans itself, right? We believe that the idea of stoicism in the sport industry is something that human nature is something that in line with the human nature itself, right? To be a greater person at the end of the day, right? Athlete exposed.
That's right.
Okay, we need better protection, repetition.
Gimana kak? Oh, iya.
Pas nih, repetition.
Okay. Stoicism in sport industry is something that in line with the idea of human nature itself to be a better person and be the greatest person at the end of the day, right? Athlete exposed to the high pressure job, meaning you need to be actually find your own way to get mentally stable at the end of the day. And mentally unstable thing is something that very inevitable even outside of the idea of athlete or sport industry itself, right? That's why the idea of stoicism is something that in order for you to gain motivation to become a better person, no matter how tired you are at the end of the day, right? Because the motivation to keep your life in line towards the sport itself is higher than prioritizing your mentally stability at the end of the day, because it is something that going to be working together in order for you to get your motivation to life on how the outcome to become good athlete at the future, right? Two contribution in my case. First, why stoicism is morally justified to increase the productivity towards the athlete, but second, the form of improvement is better under the idea of stoicism. First then, why stoicism is morally justified to increase the productivity towards the athlete. We believe as an athlete is productivity is something that unstable and easily to erase during the time itself, right? When you tired and fail to get the best performance, when you fail to win the league, and when you fail to become an MVP at the end of the day, right? That's why the idea of club industry exists to actually help the athlete itself, because the interest is already clear. They want to protect the athlete at the athlete for the long run itself, right? The prerequisite of protection towards the athlete is based on how good the performance and quality of the development of the athlete itself. Within the stoicism, this is not going to be happen easily, because first, the form of self-actualization towards the company will not going to be manifested clearly at the end of the day, because it is exists, and because as a small athlete at the end, small athlete who want to become good debut, form actualization exists towards you doing a physical exercise, you do spars for a very long run. This is something that you need to be proved towards the company to get the protection at the end of the day, no matter how mentally exhausted you are. But second, if you go to teams, the teams don't want to get seen as a bad performance team at the end of the day, because the team performance is going to be in line within the each individual at the end of the day, right? The idea of stoicism, you have to maintain each individual performance, because every athlete has different mental capacity, right? This mental capacity is very important to create stability of the team itself, right? That's why in order to create good mental capacity, you need to actually maintain your individual performance to be at the end of the day on how you actually internalize all the pain, all the hard time as a something that you need to improve your performance at the end of the day. But thirdly, manager and teams want to actually protect the athlete mental stability and physical ability, because this is something that very exclusive under the idea of protection towards the athlete, because the idea of exclusive job, to if you get the injury to begin with, you get a good hospitality and good psychiatrist at the end of the day. But second analysis on how the fan interest exists under outside the house. You as a fans not going to be care about the quality and performance of the athlete under the, inside of the industry itself, but only under the ground of the field, only on the surface itself, right? The motivation towards their fans is not enough because they're not care about the dynamic inside the club itself. You only going to be get the protection coming from the fans if you finally prove to them that you are already a good athlete to begin with, right? This is something that not going to be exclusive under government side of the house, because because if you want to get the protection coming from the athlete to get called out, for example, this is something that you need to prove as your own athlete on how you prove the good performance at the end of the day. That's why the form of improvement exists, even if the idea of create value in the long term. As an athlete, you need to see of a good quality. As an athlete, you need to value quality of your performance itself. That's why the idea of growth of mental improvement will be better in our side of the house, because you going to be create stability at the end of the day. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, to continue the debate, I call second vote.
Yes.
Kan bisa tambahkan ya. I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. We live in a world where we force ourselves too much, right? Everyone forces themselves too much, but if it brings us nowhere. We just blaming ourselves for not being productive. We just blaming ourselves for not being good enough. It also happens to us because they are human too. No matter you say they are healthy because they do sport, at the end they are humans. Who tired of the cycle of practicing or competition over and over. My first speaker has already told you, we talk about football, basketball, or every sport that people pay a lot of attention of it. Okay, we do agree being an athlete is a hard thing that we need to maintain. We do agree that being athlete is you need to be productive, but if the productive itself will be more happen in our side. But how could you maintain your career, your productivity when it comes to when you just comes to field, when you comes to practice or competition, all your thing is your anxiety of not getting improving. At the end, this is same when we talk about injury, right? If athlete got physical injury, they take a rest, right? So this is what happened to you. This is what we want in our work. When they're having issue, why we don't let them rest too? This is unfair at the end of the day. Okay, few rebuttals towards opposition side. They stated like they will maintain the quality of athlete. This is more exclusive in our side because we make sure there is no injury for the athlete, more like the physicals and mental health. Second, they stated that we give a good hospitality. We see this is not likely to happen. Government forgot that there is tight schedules come with the competitive sport, right? There is tight schedule of practicing of competition. So this is not likely to happen to athlete having a good good maintaining, because they are just focusing on how on the competition. Even if this goes, there is a good hospitality at the end, it will be maximized because you need to run with the competitions and practices. And next one they said about Stoicism is about human nature to be better. But do you realize you won't be better if you are not in good condition? Because even life is tiring enough for you, because waking up from bed is tiring enough for you. Your motivations are loose. You can be bounced back, even though this is something that you really love. I will be explain more in my arguments about this. They stated about they also stated about you attract more sponsors. Response to that, like sponsors won't looking at the athlete that not working on their best day. Why? Because someone with 6 performance as sport people can easily notice they are underperforming. So it's basically untrue that sponsor will notice and support them, because what the sponsor want is someone that can perform the best. So the athlete that they seek yet push to perform will underperform, and the result the sponsor won't even think to sponsor them because they think that their ability is not that good. It wouldn't be give a benefit to them to sponsor athlete who is underperform, right? They stated like mentally unstable is inevitable. Yeah, we can agree on that. But pushing someone that seeks to perform, just making it worse for them, just making it worse for the team. So this is unjustifiable. The next one, the last one, they stated like the athlete need to perform to their to get best protection. This is not true because the club is already creating a contract, right? Since the start, no one will join the club that didn't provide basic health insurance when they are not in their best practice. It's basically against the moral of employee and the company if the company isn't capable to provide just a small basics needs to help them when they are having health problem. Also, there is fans of club, not a fan of athlete. You don't want this kind of fans who call out because you are not fair to every athlete. Competitive sport are having a lot of people to take a look on that. Okay, let me jump into my arguments. Judge, I'll prove to you why it is principally right to live without poison. First, this is urgent in our side because we all know the most competitive sport is based on team, right? Force athlete to winning something while they are mentally exhausted or depression just bring harm to themselves and their team. There is two scenarios. A, for the team, their teamwork couldn't be same because one of them are mentally exhausted, one of them couldn't focus in the game and couldn't even know what they do. And the second scenario about the athlete will be feeling guilty for not being maximized. And while we talk about mental health, which couldn't be seen and it just can be feeling the reason. And they are thinking that the reason of teamwork. But let me just take example. Just don't take too long. Like I'm a debater. This is the thing I do process it now as a kid. I do love it. But when Stoicism apply, I just can't help to be. When the Stoicism apply, I wouldn't be productive if I have a mental issue. It will affect my performance and my team performance because I can help to control my anxiety when I came to debate. I can control my anxiety when it comes to like practicing, and it affects my team performance, and it will just make my team lose because what happened in competitive sport, like we compete as a team, not as a person. So why would we don't give someone the rest for being a better? At the end, for the actors to living in Stoicism are just bring up. You can easily to say just bounce back. This is the thing that you decide to do for your entire life. No, bounce back are not that easy. Everyone has different cope to reduce their exhaustion. There is nothing wrong to let them rest, like taking a break for a few months, taking a break from a few competitions, taking a mental health. Compare, this is happening in status quo, like when athlete got injury, like physical injury, they take a medical help, right? They take a rest until they are healthy enough. In our side, it does same to do with a mental health. Two, life, second principle argument, life without Stoicism is exclusive in our side. They have a club, right? They have fans. What we want is clear. We want club to be stable and not being called by others. We want fans doesn't feel their favorite are exploited, like my first speaker stated. Two scenario. A, club. Okay, they want profit, but live without Stoicism means they will care for every athlete without being prioritizing just one, because they make plan B just in case some of them are dying or are not healthy, not. So we don't want being called up by fans because they exploited their athlete for just like force them to work even though they are already unhealthy, they are already having injuries. B, look at the fans. Fans are love their athlete, right? They know their athlete. They will notice when their fourth athlete are mentally exhausted, when their performance are being under the standard. They would call the club team and would like to say like, oh, why you treat our favorite athlete like that? Fans are most likely to understand. They will be thinking, okay, just let him take a rest as long as as long as he can be better next time. Sometimes fans would love their athlete more than love their self. It is important for athletes to have a realistic, achievable goals and to use their expectation as motivation to improve rather than a source of pressure or anxiety. And this is what likely to happen if we live in the Stoicism. Let's your practical arguments. While you are taking a rest, you see the medical health, right? My first speaker has already told you every club or organization who is already in order. Someone will take care about their schedule and someone who is physical. Life without Stoicism doesn't mean you are not being unproductive. It just take a rest. You still can watch the game and learn from that, and you can like, okay, this is something that I need to bounce back if I'm bad, and this is would likely to happen. Proud to be covered. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that speech. To continue the debate, I call second up.
Let me start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Stoicism isn't just compatible with competitive sports, but it's a vital ingredient for achieving athletic excellence. Now, let me go into some rebuttal first. Now, the government side of the house saying that probably we might exploit one individual because they could perform better. But yes, it's true. Maybe one of them could perform better, but it's probably because we see a potential in this individual. It's not just about they can perform better than the others, but it could be means that they are more potentially to be developed, to develop their skills even more further, preparing them probably for a leadership role in a team, or invest them in a long-term growth just for the club's benefit. So it's not just about pushing one individual, but it's also about preparing them because they had the potential. Now, they say that no matter how they say that they are human, they could still be tired if they're having too much practice. Now, yes, while practice is indeed tiring, it's also essential for improvement. You see, because it's highlighted how calculated practice sessions could build us as an athlete. It improves our skills, build our muscle memory, and ultimately enhancing our performance as an individual, making every efforts that we make in the games will be worthwhile. They said that they don't. That could be happens like their fans could shout out that how we treat them or else, but it's not just about what the fans wants, but it's about how the athletes or a team or as an individual wants. We want to win in the competitive sports. It's not just about we forget our stakes. No, we already preparing all of those. I would explain it more in my argument because we prepared all of this for this one day that this competitive sports will play out. This is why we already keep everything in check out, not just in the physical sides where we always keep training, no, but also in the strategy sides. We keep playing every kinds of strategy that would happen in the fields over and over to make sure that we will be ready with when any kinds of things that could come to us. Now, let me go into my argument. Our house believes that Stoicism, that often seen as an emotional person, is actually crucial things that force the champions. It's not about pushing one people, but channeling every effort that has into one focus, and that is winning. Make sure that they have an unwavering spirits and unshakable composure in the game. Now, first, why it would be so important for them to having these stoicisms in the games? Now, first, it would fortitude their resilience under pressures. Now, we could imagine that what happens if they will fight an opponent bigger than they are, better than they are from the previous performance. With stoicisms, we could make sure that they would stay composure when this kind of happens. They wouldn't let what they see clouds their judgment. They would have the resilience to always fight in their capability, because they are sure that all of those trainings they have, all of those meetings and every kinds of things would already preparing them to fight whatever enemy that they would fight on. Not just that, it's also about consistency. With stoicism, they can make sure that their performance are always consistent. They know that even if they didn't win, it's not just about that in the end they would lose because their opponents are bigger, but it's about what they would achieve in there. What would they achieve? They might lose, but at least they achieve something. They might probably achieve some skills that they never had in the previous games, or they probably achieved like some records that they have. Imagine like a boxers in MMA. They probably gonna fight someone's like with a whole different weight class than them. But if they manage to gain a 1 KO, that means it's already an improvement than before, because they managed to defeat someone with a whole different weight class than them. This is what we means by consistency. It's not just about achieving some. It's not just about everything that has to be win. No, but at least they achieve some things. Every effort, like I said about how they're training, it's worthwhile, not just useless from them. Now, this thing about it would exhausting them and anything or any kinds of that anything the government says about is probably tiring them to all of the sessions. Now we need to know that every league of competition has their time. They would begin in one seasons of the year or another. We had every year to train for these days. So we had so many times. If we are just like forgetting any kinds of every training when we had the time, it will also make our times wasteful when we could feel it with training instead and preparing for the wars, because no one knows what kind of enemy that we will face out in the competitive sports, especially when every year comes with a new member with unknown potentials. They also says about like mental health. Now here's the thing about mental health. If you are talking about a team-based competitions in sports, if our manager, our training will always make sure that we have the strategy. If one of our teammates is exhausted, or we at least would prepare not just one member but also another backup player to make sure that someone will also replacing them if the worst case comes through. Now, but how about the individual sports? Now this is the interesting part, is that those within individual sports will create their capability as the player to make sure that if the problem is the stamina, we would spend the whole year to build up their stamina. If the problem is the skills and technique, we would prepare those whole years before the competition to make sure their skills are honed. It's not just about over practicing. What about their health, their physical health and others? You see, they are VVIPs, just like celebrity. They have their private doctors. If they couldn't make it to the game for the final year, those private doctors will make sure they wouldn't play out in the game. And not only that, every athletes in the competitive sports are obligated to go to check-ins to make sure they are in top conditions for the whole year for practice. And not just that, it's not about killing them, but it's about preparing them from the worst. Because Stoicism is in both sports and organization offers a valuable perspective, because it's not just, it's encouraged us to focus what can we control, like efforts and strategies and continuous improvement. An athlete wouldn't just rely on what their capabilities today, but they will consistently strive to hone their skills. Maybe that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Speech. To continue the debate, I call up with
start my speech in 3, 2, 1. We live in a world in which people have always overlooked the importance of work and life balance, right? And also the importance of mental stability. Opposition here might bring you several arguments on what's justified, saying how it can create like some sort of like motivation and whatnot, because they have the ability to push the potential of these people, right? However, then, even if that's the case, my previous speaker have already explained to you on why then mental health may affect the performance of a certain individual, and how at the end of the day it's only going to create burden towards these athletes. Our stance from the very first beginning of the debate is clear, right? We want to make sure that these individuals, these athletes, are able to potentially maximize their performance in their own time without the need of being pushed by external factors. My first and second speaker have also already told you on why competitive sports without stoicism may bring you better impacts for the team, as you're able to like create regeneration since you're maximizing the use of the substitute players and not only relying on one player itself. Few reasons as to why the argument will still stand in this debate. One, the actors that we should prioritize in this debate is the athlete, right? How these individuals may feel at the end of the day. When you try to include these individuals or these players, where you don't like try to only rely on one person, there's a sense of belonging coming from themselves, right? It shows how you're able to like assure that everyone has a role in terms of like sportsmanship and teamwork. What's going to happen inside opposition if you try to force one single person, or if you try to force an athlete for the sake of like winning or achieving something, that sense of belonging coming from like other players will not exist, because they either might feel as if you're only glorifying one person, or they might feel like there's something wrong in their skill, right? Secondly, my second speaker have repeatedly told you then on how the importance of mental stability and the harms if you try to ignore it, and how it's going to affect the performance at the end of the day, right? Which is justified, because realize then the importance of these athletes to have realistic and achievable goals, and to use their expectation as a motivation to improve, rather than as a source of like pressure or anxiety that comes from themselves. The analogy coming from both of my previous speakers on how work and life balance will be superior is clearly justified, because you cannot force someone to work, right? Competitive sports itself is already pressuring these athletes, let alone you want to allow them to attain achievement even during times of like mental exhaustion, which is why we prefer a world in which competitive sport without stoicism exists. So a few rebuttals coming from opposition, right? Firstly, they told you on how becoming athlete takes a long time. Even if this is true, however, we say even if that's the case, we want to maintain their health to live without stoicism, because we want things. Because we want to be sustainable in terms of like competitive sports. It wouldn't be sustainable if like these athletes are always under performance. Opposition here tells you how it's already coming from the personal interest of these individuals to join sports. However, then analyze the correlation between interest and individual competence. Let's say basketball is your hobby, right? But you constantly have to pressure yourself to be better, to win, to always achieve something. There's a slight chance that you don't put your heart out in playing basketball anymore, because instead of having the passion to do so, you only have to think about the pressure that you have to put in terms of like winning or individual awards. Secondly, they also told you on how when you enter sport you will sign contract and yada yada yada. However, then underline that this contract exists only to make sure whether or not you're able to give your time and effort as best as you could to contribute to the team or the club. The contract exists to make sure whether or not you're able to give your time to practice, right? Just because you sign a particular contract doesn't mean you agree that you allow like these clubs or to force you even when you have a mental breakdown or even at your lowest point. Realize that every individual's view their health problems differently. Some people might view it as something that's a huge problem, which is why we won't be able to like force themselves in the name of like achieving something or winning something. Last but not least, they also told you on how stoicism is inevitable to achieve a better achievement. However, we say that it's not true, because human isn't a robot, right? When you try to like force themselves, it's not going to work at the end of the day, because what's going to happen is that they're only going to force themselves, which is only going to create some sort of like underperformance in their team, which is going to be more harmful then. However, moving into my clashes in terms of like effectivity, opposition here tries to bring you a very strong case by saying how they want to achieve good reputation of the club. However, they didn't explain to you how they are also able to like achieve this despite the fact that the portrayals coming from the media and fans do exist in the current status quo. The explanation coming from my previous speakers on how exploitation may exist inside opposition is clearly justified, because when these types of action get exposed by the media or when like these types of exploitation exploitation are exposed to the fans or the media, it may only worsen the reputation of the club. Underline that my previous speaker have also already told you how the characterization of these big leagues or this company or these big clubs, they want to protect their name and their branding, right? So when you allow this exploitation to happen, when you allow these clubs to undermine the existence of mental health exhaustion, you basically only allow your companies or your league or club to be viewed as bad. Opposition here tries to prove you by using their best case scenario on how the reputation of these clubs could only be determined by the potential of this athlete itself. However, they didn't realize that there are also other aspects that may affect the reputation, such external factors such as like the portrayals coming from the society or the portrayals coming from the fans itself. They try to bring you their arguments as to why competence would only exist when you train all the time, when you allow like these people to force themselves in the name of like achieving good reputation just by undermining the importance of mental stability, and yet they never tell you on how like the reasons of why certain factors of the reputation of the good reputation may exist, such as the portrayals coming from the media or even the fans. So in comparison, we think that our team still stand in this debate because we have already told you the reasons as to why we try to include all factors in this debate, such as the athletes, the teammates, and even the clubs itself, right? However, coming from like side opposition, they only try to prove to you on how they're only going to able to create some sort of like motivation coming from the individuals of the athlete itself, and how they're only going to like prioritize the importance of how they're able to like create good reputation coming from the club, right? However, they never try to explain to you on like the every layer aspects of the society, on how like there are also external factors that may exist in this debate. So second question on the inclusivity. I think my previous speaker have already told you on how we try to like maximize the potential of like other players, right? On how we want to make sure that other players or like substitute players are also have the ability to make to contribute to the team. What's going to happen inside opposition is that when you try to rely on one person for the sake of the winning your team, it's only going to be harmful because the existence of like the belonging of coming from like these other players is not going to exist in their side, which at the end of the day it's only going to create some sort of like portrayals of the glorification of one athlete itself, which is only going to worsen the situation or worsen the sportsmanship that exists in the team. Because what's going to happen is that when like these types of action happen, there's only going to be some sort of like glorification that exists in their side, right? So in conclusion, we think that our side is still going to be better because we have proven to you and we have already told you the several reasons as to why there are also like external factors that may exist, right? And how like there's a correlation between the internal hobbies and the pressure coming from like other people. Hence, we are very proud to propose.
Yeah, thank you for that speech. To close the debate, I can start off.
I'm starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. I think both sides of the team agree on the aim of success, but one clarification. Government's main idea of exploitation shall not count because it is not exclusive. It happens to people with 9 to 6 jobs at offices. It happens with professors and teachers. But most importantly, this is not an everyday 9 to 6 jobs. This is something that you go through years of training, talents, and fortitude, investing your life since you were 10 or like 5 years old into something that you actually love and enjoy, and you want to make a career, a professional career, sign a contract, and gain all of the enjoyment that comes from that, all the money and sort of. It's not you and me forcing to push our task or like our lab practicums in the morning while staying up late to watch our coach or like our alumni's best performances, to learn from that, to train every weekend, go on prep tournament. When I was severely depressed after Naufal, I take 2 months hiatus, but that is okay because debating is not something that I have invested all through my life, and I was only growing and starting my new hobby. It is not something that I sign under contract and make as a professional job and has responsibilities towards so many stakeholders. But a couple of rebuttals, right? Firstly, we think that athletes did not get pushed by their
team or their management. Naura has explained to you that they have consented to join into this competitive field. They have signed under contracts, right? They are under a very strict professional society, because you are always either training, or you're always either like going to see physicians, you are going to go to therapy and things like that, just to maintain your career and to make sure that you perform as best as you can when there's a league coming up, or there's a huge event coming up and things like that, especially under their under government's own characterization that this is a very high paid jobs and it's professional and things like that. This is why improvement will only exist under our side, both new or already huge athletes. But secondly, when they say that this is not principally right, because under our side we are not humanizing them. Under Naufal analysis, in every league you have seasons, right? Like 3 to 4 months, like 5 for 6 months. Like you have time to rest. So protection is still strong, and I will also still extend this later on, because this has been brought again and again by both of my first and second speaker. But this is not a way of how you are not humanizing these athletes, because at the end of the day, this is something that coming from inside from themselves, and not something that you push onto them and say that, oh, you have to be stoic and things like that. Like, no, this is how you actually improve yourself since the very beginning. You must have stoicism inside of you to become the one that you want to be. But then about the burden. We don't understand why they suddenly come in and say that, oh, you will put burden when you have stoicism in sports. There's no clear analysis or like any illustration on what kind of burden that were actually put onto them, because when you're stoic, you play because you don't have the burden. You play because you have you go out there and you do your best, and you do whatever that you have went through all the trainings and go through and to put up your best, and whatever the result is, you're still okay with that. But more of that, the sense of belonging. They say themselves that humans are not robots. So when you are stoic, you do your best, you push your team, you fight for your country in front of the whole world, no matter how anxious you are. This is where the sense of belonging actually does exist under any side, because they cannot just say that, oh, there will be no sense of belonging under opposition. We clearly say that when you are stoic and you actually do your best, you will still have those moments where you are still completely being able to connect with your teammates and do because that is exactly what you want to do, right? You want to perform the best, and with that you have to have a sense of belonging with your club, or have a sense of belonging to your country when you play in World Cups and things like that. But moving on to clashes, right? Firstly, how stoicism is inevitable and something that you must have in high pressure jobs for the sake of productivity and improvement. Opposition didn't respond to this, meaning that they concede to our principles since the very beginning. They never concede that this is a whole different world. This is like A-lister clubs, Premier League, World Cups, and Olympics. When you're stoic, Naufal has explained to you, when you lose, like when you're about to face a huge club, they can do better. They will see it as an improvement, and they will see it as something that, oh, like it's okay to lose because we still did our best. It's okay, like when things doesn't go the way that we want to, because that is exactly what we are trying to because we understand that this is how you can actually improve, is when you lose at the end of the day. But the second clash about fans, only see how you have to understand that fans only see what happens on the field, and that they can turn them back on you anytime, like disappointment, and like blame you when you bail out. About the reputation, we think that government also talk about this, like physical injuries and such, but this is our exact point. Like Naufal has explained to you how important it is to keep your best, to push forward, because you have the reputation and you have the responsibility for your fans and for your clubs and for your own careers and things like that. And when you have physical injuries and this will link exactly right to my next clash, which is the protection. The response was that they will notice and yada yada yada. That's great, but that still also exists on our side. But it is more likely again with stoicism, because you show your grit and you show your fortitude for the communal benefit. You show that you are actually willing to go through losing several times and still will not like bailouts in competitions, like in the worst case of like badminton players, let's say, because they play all year, so many tournaments, but even if they keep losing, they still do their best, and that shows that they do have the competitiveness, they do have the willing to actually go out there and play. When they say that every club care for every member, exactly, Naufal's point saying that there are always plans in club, like detect their lacks, right? Detect who cannot perform well. You will not be put on the field when your coach told them let's not put him on the field, let's not let him play for this round, let's not play, that's why you switch players all the times and things like that. Mental stability obviously will be noticed. You see panel, this is when fans will understand, right? This is when stockholders will understand. Like if you bail out on your own will, because you see like oh I cannot handle this anymore, and like I need to bail, I need to quit, I need to do this, and I need some rest or more, like that. Things under those circumstances like that will not happen under our side, because you have actually shown your best, and like people, and then the managers, like your coaches, see you in that exact state, and that is when you are actually getting pulled out. That is when actually you don't play, and your fans will understand at that point. At the end of the day, our main case stands in the individual initiatives is indeed important, no matter where are you playing, in a little club, in a big club, in World Cups, in Olympics. We think that individual initiatives is the only thing that can only bring you the success at the end of the day. How you only actually play to win, and why in terms of improvement you have to be stoic. This is our main case, and they never actually want to concede, or at least be charitable with that, and like actually try to explain why and to engage more on that under our side. Very proud to oppose.
Okay, thank you for that speech. Dari Jenon yang ini, datang yang ini, datang Jenon.
Iya, enggak.